Hey everybody, it's my Lucky Day YouTube channel, and been away for just a little bit. I got some new computer software and a new computer, trying to bring the channel up to maybe that next level, or give it a little bit more of a quality touch. And I was working on my Cesar Romero mustache. What you're getting ready to see is a video of school that I used to go to. You might be familiar with some of my other videos here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where I've gone around to some of the places that used to be here, and some of the places that I went to school, kind of stuff like that on a local level. I got a catalog of videos that I've captured. I just didn't get the chance to edit them because I've been kind of diligently trying to figure this thing out, and then kind of gave up for a little bit and then came back to. I'm going to be doing kind of a variety of videos here after a while too, just to let you know. I kind of promised in another video that I'd be kind of showing off and doing a little show and tell on some of the stuff that I kind of collect and so on. It might be something that you folks are interested in out there in the internet, in the interwebs and so on. Anyway, without further ado, what you're getting ready to look at is a video of a place I went to school. It's a place here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. It's Hoover Middle School. It's kind of spent some formative years there back in the 90s. And it's going to be a pretty cool video. And anyway, it's my lucky day, and I sure hope it's your lucky day. And here we go. Holiday Park Community Center. Looks like we're a little bit late. The summer lunches began on June 1st, and it's already around July 19th. So I'm close to 2 months late, but just gonna have to get my lunch somewhere else. Here's kind of a view of the playground area. They've kind of renovated this, I guess for the better, I would say. It looks a little bit nicer, and they didn't have quite so many, so much playground equipment back then. But you could tell these trees here are just really established, and they've been here for a little while. It's kind of nice to see and sit under some nice shade trees. Here's just a quick look at this bridge over here. Looks like it's kind of a nicer bridge than it used to be. And I remember a time when there wasn't even a bridge. I kind of seem to remember a time when there wasn't even a bridge there, or the bridge that was there was not quite a bridge. It was just sort of something that somebody put over there that wasn't that great. But anyway, maybe, I don't know. I know this area that's back in here that's covered in grass used to just be a lot of dirt. And I remember there were dirt mounds that people dug some jumps for BMX bikes and for mountain bikes, to kind of like dirt jump in there. But I'm pretty sure those trees, the bigger ones, they were still there, of course. Those trees look pretty established. But that whole area was kind of dirt mounds. Around 20 years ago, the last time that I was really over here, I tried to take a couple of those jumps on my bike, and then it was just a real sad indicator about how old I had gotten, because I wiped out pretty hard, and the kids that were there jumping over them that were around teenage years, they had a good laugh out of the whole thing. And I got hurt pretty badly, but I didn't show it. I got back up and tried it again, and I would like to say that I made the jump, but I didn't. I just wiped out and hurt myself even more. So let that be a lesson to you. If you're old, don't try and prove yourself to be young again. We'll take a little walk over this bridge now. See if its integrity holds up to its good looks. Here's a look down the arroyo. Albuquerque's full of these different arroyos. And, my family and I always thought it was odd that they would have these dangerous flash flood warnings all the time, but then these dangerous arroyos would run right through the heart of parks. And I guess you got to do what you got to do. It seems like they should have fences or something. I don't know. But would that really keep kids out? I don't know. It wouldn't have kept me out. If I wanted to get in there, I was going to get in there probably. Okay, so this is kind of what I was talking about earlier, where there was kind of like an area, like a clearing in here. Maybe this is where it was. I'm mistaken. There's this little clearing in here. You can see there's kind of little trails in here that haven't been walked on for a little while, but this little area was kind of a little place where you could kind of ride your bike in. And look, there's a little bump right there. I don't know if you can make it out right here. So this is actually where it was. I guess I'm mistaken. This little clearing right here, there are little jumps set up right here. And don't be deceived, they're kind of knocked down now because nobody's evidently ridden on them for many years, but this is where kids used to come flying and jump right over here, and they were actually quite a bit higher during that time. So, and then there's got to be another one around here somewhere. I remember there being a kind of a series of different little jumps. I don't see them now. Somebody didn't finish the job. They cut down some of the tree over here but didn't take it away. I think that's kind of a fire hazard. I don't like it when people do that kind of stuff. But yeah, this is the little area that I recalled in my mind that I thought was just over there on the other side of the arroyo. Turned out to be over here on this side. So I think I'm standing on a place kind of right here where there used to be kind of one of those jumps in here. It's kind of neat. Just goes to show kids aren't like really doing the same stuff that we used to do anymore, you know. They're not out there jumping off of stuff and riding their bike over stuff. That's kind of sad. This looks like a cool little area to hang out if you're a kid and jump your bicycle over something. Maybe I'll do a video where I come back over and jump over. Maybe I'll bring my shovels out here and build it up into a little bike park again, and then put it on like a Facebook page so everybody can see it or something. I don't want to get too far away from my supply cart here. This is a nice field. Anybody run around this track back in the day? Here we are alongside the playground to John Baker Elementary School. This is a school that I didn't go to, but I do remember when I was younger there was a movie, and I think it was titled The John Baker Story, and it was about the teacher John Baker, who worked here at this school, of course, before it was called John Baker. Maybe somebody can remember what the school was called before it was called John Baker. Anywho, John Baker worked here, and he was a track star, I believe, at UNM, and he also worked here at the school as a teacher. I can't remember what kind of teacher he was. Maybe he was the phys ed teacher, or maybe he was the English teacher, I don't know. I wish I would have brushed up on that before I came out here. But I do remember the movie. There's a movie, I think it's titled The John Baker Story. Maybe it's like something, The John Baker Story. But you could probably find that on the internet or on YouTube somewhere. But did anybody used to go here? Looks like a pretty neat little school over there. Unfortunately, John Baker passed away. I believe that was from some form of cancer, and then later on the school was named after him. But you can research that a little bit if you like. It's a pretty interesting New Mexico and Albuquerque story about the man John Baker. So let me know if you remember what the school was called before it was called John Baker. I believe that happened around the 1970s. Whenever John Baker was a teacher here, was around that time. Maybe the middle to late 70s. Here's kind of a closer view of what's going on nowadays with this playground. Looks quite a bit different from when I was younger. I remember seeing this playground at this school covered with you know, old swing sets and big gigantic tires and you know, concrete pipes that were around 6 feet in diameter so that kids could play on those. It's got a kind of totally different feel from when I was a kid. But I never really hung out over here on this side of the fence. But I do remember seeing it. And I remember the playground equipment being quite a bit less developed. If that makes any sense. They still got the chin-up bars these days and monkey bars. I remember I used to do monkey bars when I was a kid. If I tried to do them now, I'd probably pull my arm right out of the socket. I don't know. All right. So I found me a shady place to sit down for a minute. There's kind of a little area here to sit down and eat some food from the cafeteria. You know, this is, for some reason, there's kind of a, I do remember this area, but then at the same time, I don't remember it as much. I do remember this basketball court kind of being out here and playing basketball. Anybody remember this basketball court? There's the main gym over there. It's pretty cool to see. And this little shady area over here. People could sit down and eat their lunch, I suppose. The designation on the building door over there says W37, and then it goes down as you go down the hallway. If I remember correctly, from when I went here, that means West 37, and all the buildings on this side were W. And if I'm not mistaken, when we get to the other side, maybe we can see that those ones are E, and the numeral and so on for East. Here's another nice little sitting area. The gate to that kind of common area is kind of sealed off with a lock and so on, so you really can't go in there. They're probably afraid of somebody coming around and busting windows or something like that in here. But that table was probably here when I was here. That looks like an older table. I don't think that umbrella was here when I was here, but I bet some of these portables were probably more than likely out here during the time that I went here, which was like around 1990, somewhere in there, 91. All right, I kind of cleaned off the window so I could get a better view through here. There's the hallway that leads to the front entrance. And alongside there's the school cafeteria. I remember when I was younger, we had the Hoover Hawks spirit store that we had set up, and we used to sell candy and blow pops and candy bars. And we used to sell these really great things. They were like puzzle pins that had yellow ribbons for the troops to come home. It was kind of a cool thing that our teachers thought up. Had some really great teachers, Mrs. Gregoire and Mrs. Hagen, who thought of this idea to make these puzzle pins to support the troops. And we ended up meeting the governor at that time, Bruce King, and going on a trip to Santa Fe. And then later on, the store earned us a trip to San Diego. We got to go out there and go to all the sites, and I was especially fond of going to the beach out there. And we ate at a restaurant that was on a boat. We went to the zoo and to SeaWorld, which was a really cool experience for me at that time. So I gotta give props to my teachers at that time, Mrs. Gregoire and Mrs. Hagan. They were some really cool teachers. But yeah, right at the end of that hallway would have been that spirit store. Okay, as we're going down through this little corridor over here, it's kind of dark. I did bring a light with me, but I don't think we need it. We'll just see how it goes. There's something glowing in the dark down there. Oh, it's not, it's just the sunshine coming through the roof. That little pinhole up there is making this little thing on the ground. It looked like it was glowing in the dark. So it says mini gym right here. So maybe that wasn't the main gym. It says auxiliary gym. Maybe this is the main gym right here. I really don't recall. I just thought it'd be kind of neat to go down this corridor, kind of reminisce a little bit. Does anybody remember coming down through this way? All right, it's a little dark again, but this is the other side. I guess maybe you would call it the east hallway. And down that hallway, there's sort of a hallway in the middle that adjoins the two east and west sides. And actually there's kind of the front does that too, and then there's a middle space that kind of performs that function. But down that hallway and then to the right is the same classroom that I was talking about before that I used to go to. But at the end of that hallway is sort of the main offices in that area there, off to the right. And then of course the cafeteria is sort of a round shape and is down at the end of that hallway, that being the front end over there. This is sort of the back area. I never really hung out around here too much. Nobody ever really came down this way, you know, because I didn't have a class down here or whatever, and I never really walked out this way because it wasn't on my way home or whatever. Here's kind of a cool shot. It's a little courtyard that's off to the side over here. I'll walk over there and see if I can kind of peer into those windows. I do remember looking out these windows and coming out these doors. If I'm not mistaken, like the wood shop class used to kind of be in this area. Maybe it was right in there where my camera's pointing. If you can see where those doors are. And I'm not entirely certain about that. But yeah, anybody else remember this little area? All right, so I'm just approaching these windows now. Hopefully there's not too much of a glare as we get up here and you can kind of see into there. Maybe if I put the camera closer. Here we go. I don't want to get too close. Scratch at my lens. But I'll just walk alongside here. You can see, did anybody have a locker over here in this vicinity? I remember one of the happiest days that I had in the school was when I was walking down the hallway and I found a wallet and it had like $9 in it. And to me that was a lot of money. Even nowadays, that's a lot of money for me. If I find $9, and I'm pretty happy. I don't know about you, but if you find $9 on the ground, I bet you're pretty happy about it too. If not, then, you know, maybe it's just me. Tell you, this little spot right here is sort of somewhat unmaintained, but it's got this little crossroads pattern. Kids going one way and kids coming and going another. It's pretty interesting. But anybody remember this little area? It's got this great big pine tree. There's all these pine needles on the ground. I don't know, this is kind of memory lane for me right here. When I first started going over here, I remember having a class in that little area, just right over there. So when I first started going here back in the early 90s, I would have had class right over here in this direction past the fence. I went to Jackson Middle School for a time. As if you didn't already know, if you've been on my channel a while, you've probably seen my video at Jackson. If not, go back and check that one out. It's kind of cool. But then I went here for our 7th and 8th grade, and I had a teacher when I first came here who was named Mrs. Rosenberger, and she was a really neat teacher. She was a student teacher of the other teachers that I ended up going to their class, their name were Mrs. Gregoire and Mrs. Hagen. And when I first came here, though, however, I had a teacher named Mrs. Rosenberger, and she was a cool teacher. She taught us a lot of stuff. She taught us about different culture and different things. She had animals that she would bring in. She had like a bull snake that she'd bring in. I never really got too much into snakes as pets. I always felt bad about feeding the mice to the pet, to the snake, you know. So I never thought that a snake was really a great pet. But you might disagree with me, but good for you. I don't know. But anyway, like I said, when I first came over here, before my attention deficit took me away from what I was talking about, I had this teacher, Mrs. Rosenberger, and she was right tucked away in that area over there. Can't really read the numbers, but I remember I had this really great English bike. It was a bike made by Ross, and it was like a Schwinn, but it was an English-made bike, and it was really, really nice. It was a 3-speed bike, and I used to ride it to school and park it right in there. The teacher was cool enough to let me lock up my bike or bring it into the classroom when I would ride it, so that was kind of neat. But we ended up going on a field trip to her house one time. She lived up in Edgewood. We got to see where she lived out there. She lived close to where my Aunt Chris used to live up there in the Holly Hills area, if you know where that's at, out by Edgewood. And she had a lot of cool animals and ferrets and different kinds of things. And we went on a little nature hike and watched a movie. And darned if I can remember what movie we watched. But it was a pretty cool time. And one of the other good memories, I remember her and her teacher's aide bringing in this thing called a mano and a matate, which is like a big stone that's flat, and there's a smaller stone that's used by Native Americans for grinding corn. So we got to learn about that culture and make sort of cornbread and tortillas and stuff like that. It was kind of neat. I miss those times a lot. All right, I found this kind of nice place to sit over here in the shade for a minute, and knock on wood, there's some wood behind me, some railroad ties. There aren't any ants running around over here. So yeah, I had a pretty good experience when I came here. At first I was kind of reluctant to come over here because during the 80s I went to Jackson Middle School, and there was sort of a whole heavy metal scene and a long hair kind of scene, for lack of a better word, that I kind of identified with. And it was the 80s at that time. And then the summer came along and I started back at Jackson, and I think I went there for like another week or something like that. Not too long, and then I transferred right away over to Hoover. I can't remember how long I had been going to Jackson during that school year, so I went there a little bit over a year, and then came over here to Hoover Middle School, and that was sort of the 90s at that point when I was over here. I may be mistaken about the timeline, but just going from my foggy memory. And yeah, I had that teacher, Mrs. Rosenberger, and she was pretty nice. And then later on, I had this teacher, these two teachers, Mrs. Gregoire and Mrs. Hagen, and they had taught me like sort of a wealth of different things during the time that I was in their class. It was a very enriching classroom to be in. I remember that we had this class where they taught us how to balance your checkbook, and that was pretty memorable. And then I remember most of all this class called Song Spiral. It was where they would take a tape player and they'd put a tape in there, and you could bring in tapes sometimes, and the teacher would play the tape, and then they would pick music sometimes. But I'm kind of going the other direction because of my attention deficit here. I remember they used to put the tape in the tape player and then push play, and then after the first verse was said, not the first verse, but the first line of the first verse, they would pause it, and then you had to raise your hand, and then you had to guess what the lyric of the song was. And I don't know, it taught us about breaking down the songs into verses and into the chorus, and it taught us that in sort of a musical perspective. But more than that, I think what it really taught us was to take account to what the lyrics are saying, and to listen closely, and then to think about it, and then to digest that information into relevance about the things that were going on. Like, for example, we on one occasion did this song called Tie a Yellow Ribbon Around the Old Oak Tree, and you know, that song had a relevance about you know, the man going off to war, and the wife waiting for him to come back, or girlfriend, and so on. And during that time, it was during sort of the whole Desert Storm and Desert Shield operation that was going on in the early 90s, and we always made sure to learn about that through the newspaper and through different things, through the news and everything, and we digested that in the classroom, and it was pretty darn interesting, I gotta say. We learned quite a bit about how government operates and works in that way. But getting back to the whole song spiral thing, when you stop and you think about the lyrics of the song, and you think about what the words are and how they are relevant to the time that they were written, and how they're relevant now, and how things really haven't changed that much, or maybe they've changed a lot, I don't know. It was really just a valuable thing. I sure do wish that I still had it. It was like a notebook that we wrote down all the lyrics in, and by the end of the school year there, I had like this great big notebook full of different songs that we did, and I did that for a few years. I wish I would have kept up with that practice, because I'm kind of you know, fooling around with my guitar. I've been messing around with the guitar for like 20 years, and I'm just barely learning how to really carry a tune with it. But anyway, that was a really fulfilling thing, and it was probably the thing that I remember most about being in that class. We did some pretty big, epic things. Like I said, we went to San Diego, from New Mexico to San Diego, and we went to go see the governor. But I guess my favorite thing that I remember about that time was doing that song spiral. It was really pretty cool. So I don't know if my teachers are going to ever see this video, but if you do, I wish you guys all the best. I appreciate you helping to bring me up in a way, and love you guys. I bet you a lot of people who went to school here will kind of remember these columns that run behind me. They kind of have this kind of unique look to them. I always thought it was a weird kind of thing as a kid, even thinking that it was an odd architectural design to have these sort of, oh, there's a cat back there. That's crazy. Anyway, I just always thought it was weird to have these kind of archway designs. I can't really articulate my hand to make the arch behind me in an adequate way. But isn't that strange? Maybe this does it. Does that come across on the camera? Why do they have these little archways that go to a brick wall? I just always wondered. I thought that was weird. Who designed this place? It's kind of interesting, but it's kind of cool to look at. Those trees, I'm sure they were here when I was younger, but I bet you they're significantly larger than they used to be. A tree like that grows a lot in 30 years. That's about how long it's been since I went to school here. So like 1990, 91 to 2020. Dang, that was like 30 years ago. What the heck? Where does the time go? But anyway, it is a pretty interesting look at those little columns. They really, if you went here, they sort of identify the school as being Hoover Middle School. If you went here, you probably recall those. Or maybe it's just me. Anybody else recall those little arches over there? This whole little ramp area that runs over here is very, very nice. It's also a very new thing from the time that I was here. But these trees, I bet you they were here. I don't know. I think they were here. So this was definitely here when I was here, this Hawks sort of mural. I said it right. That's painted over here on the back side of the cafeteria. And what wasn't here was this little partition wall. Pretty sure that's a much later development. Anyway, that's a really cool sight for sore eyes. I do remember that being painted there, that Hawks mural. Okay, hidden here by this great big tree with these pretty flowers is this addition here. It says Hoover Middle School 12015 and opens up into this little archway here. That's the front of the school on the other side of the cafeteria. So this didn't used to be here when I was here. This kind of whole thing is new, and it's kind of interesting that it's new and then it's shrouded by this tree. So you know what that means. It means that I am old. I am very old. I'm standing underneath a little shaded area, courtesy of these sort of canopies or umbrellas, and this little area with the giant arrow painted on the road seems to me that the buses would travel through here and make their way back over there to the back of the school to pick up kids and drop them off. I remember at the time when I went here, that was just sort of a dirt turnaround. It was really underdeveloped. You know, I couldn't say it's underdeveloped for the times. That's just how it was then, but they certainly developed it now. It's up to a modern sort of feel to it. In a way that's kind of sad for me. You know, even though it's like progress or whatever, I kind of miss the way things were in a rural kind of sense back then. It was Albuquerque on a smaller scale. Albuquerque just kind of knew who they were. I don't know how to describe it, but anyway, I lament over it a little bit. It's a pretty neighborhood here, though. The duration of time that I went to school at Hoover was 2 years. And just a lot of things happened in those 2 years. They were pivotal years. What's the term that they have for that? They were some molding years, you know. The years just before high school, before you begin to become a young adult. And formative years. I've got a short attention span. I think I probably said that like 3 times today, but as I'm getting older, it's really starting to present itself. I'm just trying to make it a part of my character and embrace it, as it were. But 2 years, you know, to think about that time span. I kind of split that time between 2 schools, like I said, Jackson Middle School that I went to for like a little more than a year, and then the remainder of the years over here at Hoover Middle School. So anyway, it's something to think about, especially if you had kids that are in middle school or at that age. It helps to think back about where you were and how to cope with kids during that time, through better understanding how you were during that time, and the things that you thought about, and the challenges that you had to overcome. But that's the other thing I forgot to mention, is my little girl Carly went to school here for just a little while too, so it was kind of interesting. And then she went on from here to El Dorado High School for a little while, and then transferred from El Dorado High School after freshman year to Manzano High School. So it was kind of an interesting chain of events that I won't get into too much, because she'll just be really bugged if I talk about that a lot. But it's kind of neat when your kids go to school at the same places that you went to school. And I really like it when they come out here with me. Sometimes I'm fortunate enough that the kids come out here with me and film these videos and stuff like that. But there's some videos coming up where you'll get to see the girls. We're taking a little road trip through some of the outer places here. I'll talk about that just a little bit here in a moment. Some of the little towns outside of Albuquerque that are kind of cool too. So I hope that you guys liked that video. If you did, there's going to be some more on the way. Like I was just saying there a minute ago, we're going to be going out of town, checking out some places. We kind of already did, but the videos are coming. You'll get a chance to check out Bernalillo, and a place called Algodones, and a little place I used to live called Rio Rancho, New Mexico. Some pretty cool stuff to look at there. A couple of abandoned places that we got some cool footage of. Kind of neat stuff to look at once again. But I hope you guys have a lucky day, and all the best to you. Take care.